Can you believe I shipped Tony Pollard for a second?
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Kudos.
People just handing them out.
I mean, we're going to talk about that tonight because Alfred Morris might be the name of this episode. We'll Welcome to the NFLMAX, the radio show inspired by the league, founded in 1998, bringing you 20-plus years of fantasy football experience. Broadcasting from our brains to your earbuds each and every week. Down player profiles for your teams in Dynasty. You can check us out now on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Facebook, or you can watch the show on YouTube at youtube.com/NFLMAX for your weekly Max fix. And as always, Ewok Juggernaut here with the hot pineapples. Nick, what is going on, man?
Not much. Just getting ready for some football. I know by the time this drops and gets into people's ears, either the games will be coming that evening, or they will have already happened. You'll already have watched them. But either way, excited football is back. Excited to jump back into DFS too. Preseason DFS is a ton of fun, and you know it's just something that I really enjoy. From last year, I got into it last year, and it's just so much fun. And while we're mentioning DFS in the preseason, getting super excited about having a special guest on the show next week. It'll actually be the first time the NFLMAX has a special guest, and that special guest will be Elliot Christ of the Quant Edge, TQE. Again, I was mentioning, preseason DFS. He's got a sub package over there, NFL. They actually just purchased the Power Hour guys, Johnny and Hodge, and so they put together quite a team over there. And TQE is just fantastic for DFS information, and just the chat is, just so live and lit every day, and information pumping out, and we're gearing up for preseason. Everyone's talking, sharing notes. So really excited to have Elliot on the show next week and toss some questions. Not only, does he run TQE and do DFS, but he's a big dynasty guy. And he's just well-versed in every area of fantasy football. So super excited to have him next week.
Yeah. Love TQE. I used that a ton last year. And there was a lot of really great features for, in-season matchups. My favorite, I'm sure we'll talk about it next week with him, but it's the wide receiver cornerback matchup. It's awesome feature. But nonetheless, so we're back and football is back. Last week, the Hall of Fame game went down. It wasn't really that entertaining, but nonetheless, it was on and we were watching it. And Hard Knocks debuted this week. Didn't get a chance to watch it yet, but I will. And preseason begins as you're listening to this today. Preseason begins. So before we move on, I jumped on Twitter real quick, and I caught Nick, talking to one of his buddies, and we've got a short list here of movies that Nick never saw, and I'll run through a few of them here, and you can finish them off. Die Hard, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Terminator, Godfather, Rocky. Some of the Jaws. Some of these are like epic, greatest of all time movies, and Nick never saw them.
I've seen clips of Jaws. Does that count?
No.
Yeah, I've never seen any of them. And actually, I was looking on the list, and the one that I get ripped apart for the most is probably Braveheart. And yeah, I've never seen that one either. So you can tack that one on the list. And it's funny because I'm not a movie guy, but my brother, man, he's watched every movie probably ever made since 1940. He's just He lays on the couch and pumps them out. And when I was little, I never got into movies. Even when he had them on the television, I had no choice. I was always outside playing instead. I just never got into movies. And if I do, I watch like 30 for 30 or E60, or like I love sports documentaries. So that's just like my jam. I should watch Braveheart. I should maybe watch Rocky,
I
since
mean,
I'm
as a
from the
fan,
southern New Jersey area. But
Rocky and Braveheart, as a sports fan, I mean,
yeah,
the speech that he has in Braveheart at the end, just to get everybody going and pumped up, it's just epic. But anyway, moving on here to football. Antonio Brown, speaking of Hard Knocks with the Raiders, reports came out tonight that the Raiders have, quote unquote, no timetable on Antonio Brown after he was found with extreme frostbite on his foot from cryotherapy. Now, extreme frostbite is definitely scary to hear. And the fact that they don't know what the hell's going on over there with his foot. Antonio Brown, thoughts on this? I guess he's making an appearance on the new Disney Frozen movie, but it's scary.
Yeah, it's a little frightening. I guess that's kind of like uncharted territory for most people. Yeah, he put a picture of his feet out, and it looked pretty gross. But I mean, all in all, I don't know if maybe he lost feeling. Like I don't know the circumstances around it. I would imagine he'll be fine, but I speak from no medical position whatsoever. I have no idea how this heals, how long it takes to heal. He was one of my guys like in redraft that I was really targeting and excited about. I thought he was going to put up a great year, just be a target hog there in Oakland. But I'm hoping, listen, it doesn't matter if he plays in the preseason. AB is AB. He's going to be fine. Yes, he's new to the team and new to the system, but he's going to be fine. Just you need him back for week 1. That would not be good.
It's just more theatrics from AB, whether he's coming in, preseason on a helicopter or riding in on a limo. And now he's got, frostbitten feet. So it's always something with AB, but we'll see what happens. So, the reoccurring news here for the week with these holdouts, we had Michael Thomas sign last week, but let's go to Dallas real quick with Zeke. So we all know he's holding out. We have no idea how long this is going to go on for, but I wanted to talk about Alfred Morris. And I'm in a couple leagues where I own Zeke, and like a bunch of cockroaches like they are scurrying to the waiver wire, thinking that they're savvy, picking up Alfred Morris. Now, we've been down this road before in Dallas when Zeke missed a few games in 2017. And my question to you is, why would you waste a roster spot on Alfred Morris, especially knowing the production we've seen him have, or lack thereof, with Dallas when Zeke missed 4 to 5 games a couple of years ago? I mean, first of all, they brought him in and they signed him, and they're not even paying him league minimum. Okay, so he's making, like I heard on NFL radio, $90,000 is what they're paying him. So, right off the bat, that's a red flag. But I'm assuming he's just a camp body, and more like a, corpse at this point. But I mean, seriously, like what are your thoughts on Alfred Morris? And you're a Cowboys fan.
Yeah.
So what are your real thoughts on this Alfred Morris signing?
So here's where I'm at. I'm with you and a little not with you on this. Like, I agree the $90,000 is a little bit of a red flag. But I don't think he's just a camp body either. I think there's maybe a little bit more. I think he's more of a hedge bet for them. He's a guy that they know can come in. He knows the system. He can, take the early down work. He's not going to be a 3-down back. He's not going to be really fantasy viable for people. I mean, at this point in his career, like you're saying, he's not an explosive player. He never really was that explosive player. I don't see too much coming in the way of fantasy, gold. But I do think he's more than just a camp body. I think he's a legitimate hedge. It looks like Mike Weber is heading to the practice squad for all intents and purposes from what I've seen so far. Obviously, we still have the whole preseason, and there's going to be a lot more camp buzz to come. But from everything I've seen, and I do follow the Cowboys closely as a fan, it appears that he's going to end up on the practice squad. My personal belief is Rod Smith is battling for two positions there with Perkins and Gallman. He's fumbled 3 times, and I suspect that he could potentially be the guy on the out from the Giants. I think Gallman might be able to hold him off simply because he's been there for a year. And I think if Rod Smith left the New York Giants, I think that there's a possibility he could wind up back in Dallas. And, he hasn't performed well in camp so far. The reports have all been negative about him. So, who knows what he would even bring to the Cowboys, but I would trust him and see more upside in him than a guy like Alfred Morris.
I actually like that take a lot. I'm a fan of Rod Smith, and he showed well in Dallas as opposed to Alfred Morris, who, if you're picking up Alfred Morris right now, let's face it, you're wasting a roster spot. So Zeke missed 5 games in 2017. And let's turn back the clock and take a look at what Alfred Morris did as a starting running back on the Cowboys. In a PPR format, 5 points, 9 points, 5 points, 18 points, look out, at 11.5 points. And those 18 points he scored in week 13, it took him 27 carries to score 18 points. You're getting 18 points on 27 carries. That's pedestrian. It's pathetic. So that was 2 years ago. I did a little more research on Mr. Alfred Morris. And take a guess when the last time Alfred Morris had 20-plus points in a PPR. He just missed it with 18 points, but 20-plus points in a PPR. When was the last time Alfred Morris did that?
It's rookie year.
Yeah, well, close. 2014.
Okay, second year. Yeah.
Thanksgiving night, November 23rd. I'm assuming it was Thanksgiving. 2014, he scored 20-plus PPR fantasy points. You got to go back that long for Mr. Alfred Morris. So my point here is it's preseason. You're wasting a roster spot on Alfred Morris when you can have one of these late-round rookies. Whatever's going on in Houston, we saw, Foreman get cut. I'd rather have Karan Higdon, Crockett, Ferguson, anybody. But Alfred Morris is, it's not like we're going to be shocked. We know what Morris is going to do.
Yeah. So here's kind of my take from like a dynasty perspective on it. Like you're saying, we know what Alf Morris is. He's not a pass catcher. He's not, he's not a dynamic athlete. He's not an explosive player. So really what you're going to get is you're getting a hedge against Zeke, which, yes, he's prepared to go into the season, without, coming back. He's prepared to hold out. It sounds like, at least from what Josina Anderson was saying, he's prepared to go into the season holding out. I don't think it's going to get there. I think the Cowboys will lock him up. I think that they know they need him. I just think right now they have offers on the table for Dak and they have offers on the table for Amari. Why rush into a deal for Zeke? You probably don't want him running in camp really anyway. Yeah. So, it's really they're not in a complete time crunch yet. And, the beginning of their schedule is soft, but I don't think that they want to risk those first couple games without Zeke. I think he's going to be there before week 1. And if he doesn't play, if he plays very limited week 1, he'll be a full go week 2 and beyond. That's my belief. So you're taking Alfred Morris as a hedge for, with minimal upside. It just doesn't make sense. Whereas right. I'm on the record as a guy who loves Alfred Blue. Like you might look at them and think that they're very similar. To me, it's very different. Fournette is a back that, is injury prone, has gone down every year, and that workload is massive. Alfred Morris is not going to get that workload in Dallas. He's just not. He's going to split time. They're going to have Pollard handle the pass catching duties. Like Alfred Morris will not be a 3-down back, whereas Alfred Blue, if he were there, yeah, he would be. He will handle the load that Fournette handles at least 80% of it. And if you can get 80% of that workload, it's a lot different than what Alf is going to get in Dallas. It just doesn't make sense. There's no flip potential there. People know what Alf Morris is. Even if he does start for the first game or two, you're not going to get more than a third?
Yeah.
At best.
Out of him.
Exactly. So it's just like, it's different when you, like you were saying, you can have one of these guys like Pollard. I mean, I flipped Tony Pollard for a second 2 days ago. I traded him for a second straight up, a 22nd.
I have Tony Pollard in a couple leagues, and I would definitely be flipping him for a future second, especially next year's draft. But just to piggyback off Pollard, he's the guy. I know we disagree on this because we talked about it last week, but I'm in the camp of if Zeke holds out for more than a few weeks or if he gets hurt, I do think Tony Pollard will get the workload.
I do not believe that he's going to get the carries and the pass catching work. I think I think they're going the Saints route and likely what the Rams are going to do with Henderson. I think he's going to have a defined role. They have a plan for him, but the Cowboys say this every year with Tavon Austin. They say, it's over and over again that the Cowboys do this and then they don't end up using the player. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I don't see him carrying a load.
The last time we saw them use a back effectively like that was Lance Dunbar before he got hurt. And,
it was such a short stint though that he was effective in Dallas.
That's kind of like what they want to do. But I think Pollard is more than just that. I do. And,
well, we'll see. I mean, I'll feel good about a second when it rolls around next year.
Oh, 100%. Hopefully we'll never know, to be honest. Hopefully Zeke signs.
Yeah, exactly.
And that'll be the end of it.
Yep.
But moving on, we talked about D'Onta Foreman, who got cut last week, signs with the Colts. And, there was such a hype train, moving here like over the summer, the D'Onta Foreman hype train. And I'm not a fan of his. I think, when you have that type of injury, the Achilles is a serious injury for running backs. I'm not quite sure he'll ever come back, but they said that they cut him because of his work ethic.
Yeah.
So that's a telling tale. But nonetheless, he's in a good situation. If you're a Marlon Mack hater, which I am not, I know you are. But
no comment.
Yeah. But anyway, so in Houston, we've got a couple guys here we can debate about. Obviously Lamar Miller is going to be the running back one right now. But if anything happens to Lamar Miller, we've got Karan Higdon, Damarea Crockett, and Josh Ferguson, the former, I believe it was like 2016 Darling when he signed with the Colts. But Higdon, Crockett, Ferguson, which one I like. Out of those three guys, what do you think?
Oh, out of those three? I mean, really, Higdon and Crockett are a toss-up for me. I don't have strong feelings either way. I like both enough. I was drafting both. They both were draftable for me. They were both on my radar in round 4 of rookie drafts. I don't have strong feelings either way between either of them. And if either of them rose to the number 2 spot in the depth chart, it wouldn't surprise me at all. However, I don't think that the running back 2 is on that depth chart. I think that there's someone else that's going to come in. They're going to sign. They're going to kind of, pick off the streets and find one of these veterans that goes to the wayside, whether that's, TJ Yeldon from Buffalo, LeSean McCoy from Buffalo, whether that's, even Jay Ajayi maybe getting a shot. Any one of these guys, I think there's going to be vets that are available. And I think Houston backup role will be one that will be filled and probably not with Higdon or Crockett, personally.
I'm going to put my chips in Karan Higdon, and a special shout out to Jen Slattery, who commented on our page and said that he reminds her of Sonic the Hedgehog. I found that pretty awesome. But I'm a big fan of Karan Higdon, and I can't wait to see him play in the preseason. I know Crockett is prototypically sized. He's a lot bigger, and they both run 4.5, I believe. But not a fan of Lamar Miller, that's for sure. So it's going to be fun to see how these guys play and how they show in the preseason.
Yeah, I mean, Lamar is pretty uninspiring, obviously. But I mean, he's the kind of guy. He's the kind of guy that, like, right now, I mean, he's an RB1 and whatever. He's blah. But he's also the type of guy that's going to end up being a backup for like 10 years, and I'm going to love him when he's a backup. He'll be like my number one target when he's a backup.
He's going to join the Hot Pineapple Ring of Fame with Alfred Blue and
That's right.
all the rest of those bums. Oh, man. But so let's move on here. Let's go to Buffalo real quick, and let's talk about Devin Singletary, one of my favorite rookie running back whipping boys, who's getting a steady amount of opportunities as per Roto World. And, man, with the first team, he's getting all the reps with the ones. And LeSean McCoy came out and said he's been told he's the guy, referring to himself. So not quite sure, what the heck's going on out there in Buffalo with that god-awful offensive line. And, I'm just not a fan of the Bills, nor their quarterbacks or their lack of wide receivers. But as far as the running backs go, Devin Singletary is getting, a steady amount of opportunities. So, Nick, is there any chance that Devin Singletary has a good showing this year in 2019? And, in 2020, can he be a running back one?
So I was mentioning earlier with Elliot coming on next week about TQE and the chat. And one thing that's amazing about this chat is, these guys, everyone on that staff works their butt off. So one of these guys jumped into a chat with some Buffalo beat writers, Joe Basiglia, to be specific. And it was like a private chat, and he was asking him about Singletary. And he, his focus was week one of the preseason DFS, but he just asked, how much playing time do we expect to see for Singletary and so on and so forth. And he answered back. He said, I think we're going to see quite a bit of Singletary early on. I don't expect him to play into the second half or anything, but the Bills are just as excited as you are to see him in an actual game. They love this kid. So, and that's
as I am.
Yeah. Obviously, he's speaking to the fans in general there that were following the Buffalo beat writers, and probably mostly Buffalo fans. But that's a beat writer who's plugged in. So Buffalo really likes Singletary. He's been running up there with first team, and there's a shot he makes an impact in 2019. I don't love him as a prospect. I don't think he's going to be a game changer. I think he'll be average at best, even if he is the starter in the NFL. But I don't wish anyone bad, and certainly not Buffalo. I feel so bad for Buffalo. I want them to be successful. So if they're ever going to catch fire, and I'll be blatantly wrong on a rookie take, hopefully it's with Singletary, but they seem to love him. Really what makes me sad is that TJ Yeldon's about to get cut.
Oh, I hope not. I'm still a fan and a believer of TJ Yeldon. And, Bill's Mafia and the Nacho Boys will, probably think otherwise. But the reports here, I'm just reading Roto World. To quote Roto World, made a habit of busting big plays and made good defenders look foolish in the open field. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? With this agility score that Devin Singletary has from the combine, below average in my database, it comes up all in the red, a 7.32 3-cone, an 11.72 agility score, which is god-awful. How is this guy making good defenders look foolish in the open field? It's just not possible. They
didn't call him motor for nothing.
True. Well, I don't know, man. Preseason's coming, and I can't wait to watch this guy fall flat on his face. But Bill's Mafia can crucify me for that one, but we'll see. Anything left to say on Devin Singletary? Or is that?
No, that's
not right.
No.
To finish up, got a couple more players here just to talk about. Terry McClurin. Man, Terry McClurin, I loved him in college, and the reports are just through the roof here in training camp, and they're just praising him in Washington. And it looks like from what some reports are showing here that Josh Doctson is on the roster bubble, and he's possibly could be cut from the Redskins. I mean, out of all the rookie wide receivers, I would say Terry McLaurin is going to be one of those guys who's going to show this year and be productive, especially getting to play with his quarterback from college. So, I mean, the rapport's there between Haskins and McLaurin, and he's already getting praise from, Redskins camp. So, wheels up for Terry McLaurin, and that depth chart is just so bad. He should be peppered with targets this year. So, any thoughts on McLaurin?
Yeah, I like McLaurin in the process. I mean, in relative speaking, he was, falling to mid to late third round. And I had my kind of pecking order. I was going after Bryce Love. I was going after Benny Snell. And then in that third round was McLaurin. And so I have a fair amount of shares, probably like four or five shares of McLaurin. I'm excited. I think he's a talented wide receiver. I watched some Ohio State last year, again, from DFS. DFS gets me with my eyes on these guys pretty early. So I knew who McLaurin was. He's a playmaker, and getting to, play with Dwayne Haskins, that connection, that instant connection, it's going to be so much fun to watch. And, I'm rooting for the kid. I really am. A kid who probably went a little overlooked in the process. And, I'm just excited to see what he's able to do. And as far as Doctson goes, I mean, gosh, that wide receiver class, man, what a bust. It's brutal. And I mean, pedigree can only carry you so far, right? Like, so at this point, if he doesn't make it through and he gets cut, I'm done with Doctson. Write him off and move on, and start looking other directions. It's like Treadwell. I mean, it's brutal. I mean, and
Yeah,
Coleman. I mean,
he joins.
I don't think we've ever seen a wide receiver class flop quite the way that one has. It's brutal.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But yeah, I'm a big fan of McLaurin. It's going to be fun to watch. Those 4.35 wheels. It's going to be fun.
And I love Trey Quinn working out of the slot there too. Washington it'll be a fun, interesting offense to watch. I don't know, what kind of leash Gruden's going to have there, as far as this season goes for his coaching job. But he's going to pull out all the stops. He's going to try to, see if he can be creative and kind of possibly reinvent himself. I mean, it's crazy. They have 5 quarterbacks on that depth chart, no clear starter. I mean, they have this mishmash of, wide receivers in that room. They have a mishmash in their running back room with Peterson and Geis and Love and P. Ryan and Marshall. I mean, they have so many running backs, and they, again, don't have a clear-cut starter right now. So it's like, it's just a very weird time in Washington. And, Gruden's on his last leg there, I would assume. So it's going to be a really interesting year to see who rises out of it. But I'm looking to Trey Quinn to kind of, be a steady producer there in Washington, taking over the Maurice Harris role. He was pretty productive there last year as kind of an under the radar guy. So I think Trey Quinn's going to be pretty productive, and I expect McLaurin to, kind of make a way, and we'll see if Paul Richardson can do anything down the field. But I was a huge Richardson fan, but
me too.
I mean, this is his year. It's put up or shut up for him, and that wide receiver core is just very interesting.
Yeah, they got some talent there. It's going to take some time, but I can't wait to see Bryce Love. We probably won't see him this year, but I'm such a big fan of Bryce Love. Hopefully we'll see him sooner than later. But to finish up the show here, Jerick McKinnon, Spark freak, was activated from the PUP from his ACL tear. And man, what a crowd backfield they got going on over there. It's incredible. Tevin Coleman, McKinnon, your boy.
That's right.
Breida.
Breida, I'm sticking to the original take. Breida's taking the role. I'm telling you. I'm sticking to my original take.
Yeah, I guess it's going to be a 3-headed backfield. I mean,
McKinnon won't really factor in. He'll be the clear 3.
Yeah.
It'll be a 1A, Coleman, 1B, Breida, and then a third. Number 3. There is no number 2 on the depth chart. McKinnon.
Yeah, even the wide receivers, there's so much depth at the wide receiver position and the running back position. There's no like clear cut number one.
I know
So like
it's kind of like it's just a mishmash, and it's really interesting. I mean, I think while we're on San Francisco, one thing, McKinnon aside, that we need to talk about is Pettis. I mean, these reports coming out that he's running with the twos now. He's not even the starter on the outside. It's Goodwin. So, I mean, it's before week 1 of the preseason, so we need to pump the brakes, and but everyone was so high on Pettis, and all of a sudden
I know. I don't know why. Is it the Matt Waldman effect? I mean, he's not.
It's got to be. Yeah, it's got to be.
He's not prototypically sized to be a one. He's really a complimentary wide receiver.
Yeah, and
Goodwin though.
Here's the thing: is like you talk about the Matt Waldman effect. I think that as someone who had read the RSP, and I mean really read the RSP, I don't think people totally understand where his rankings come from and how he comes up with his talent scores. The reason Pettis was ranked where he was ranked was because he could be good in every spot, but he's not great in any spot. And Matt Waldman doesn't say he's the number one receiver for every single aspect, but he does everything from he could be good in the slot, he could be good on the outside, he can be good from different positions on the field. That flexibility is what gave him that breadth of talent score. And so I just think people misinterpret the RSP and Matt Waldman's rankings a little bit. Maybe Matt was a little high on Pettis, higher than he should have been.
Matt Waldman misinterprets what he's watching.
But I mean, nonetheless, yeah, I guess there is a Matt Waldman effect because people in the dynasty community just take it for gold, which, not any knock on Matt Waldman. He knows a million times more than I could ever imagine to know. But, he's not always going to be right. Just like no one in this entire industry is always going to be right. And, people just assume and they pump this guy up the board, and now he's running behind Goodwin and Matthews. Who knows what's going to happen with Matthews and Samuel and Hurd. Hurd, I haven't heard wordplay. I haven't heard anything about Hurd all camp.
You probably won't.
Yeah, they have so many guys there. It's just it's a very crowded room, and it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. I would assume that Matthews is the guy that goes by the wayside, but he also has had good camp reports. So,
and he's the one that's most prototypically sized. Everyone else is like 5'10".
Yeah, but he's a big slot. He's not going to play on the outside for them.
Right. But they don't have anybody playing, that's that.
Goodwin should.
True. But they don't have anybody who's like 6'1", 6'2",
No, yeah.
So.
But you don't really need that in the NFL anymore either. So it's like, it's just weird. Everyone's kind of in the transition phase of determining. You see all these young guys, they're all young that go in the NFL draft. Most of them, unless you're Cooper Kupp and you're like 50 years old. Most of these guys are on the smaller side nowadays. So the NFL's in this weird zone trying to figure out, do we need big guys or can we get guys like Brandon Cooks that are, legitimate wide receiver ones at a small stature. So
yeah, we'll see. Well, like I said, preseason begins, if you're listening to this, probably tonight. And I'm looking forward to watching these games, man. I know the most of the starters are not going to play, but it's those sleepers we get to watch. And I'm, as a Lions fan, I can't wait to watch Ty Johnson. So looking forward to that. And that'll be it for the show. But before we go, the official sponsor of the NFL Monkey Knife Fight, the fastest growing DFS prop style game on the planet, is Monkey Knife Fight. You can pick your favorite players, choose over and under on games, and take some head-to-head action in rapid fire. And with the preseason coming up here, I will be diving into Monkey Knife Fight. So use your promo code we got here, NFLMAX, NFLMAX, and listeners of the show get an instant 100% deposit up to $50 by using the promo code. So again, that's NFLMAX. And what do you think? You're going to dive in this weekend with preseason?
Yeah, I haven't been on Monkey Knife Fight to see if they have preseason. So I'm going to have to jump on there and see if they've got some. And if they do, I'll put some out on Twitter for anyone who follows.
And that'll be it for the show. Just wanted to thank everybody out there for listening and for subscribing. And next week, looking forward to talking to Elliot Christ of the Quant Edge and picking his brain. And go get your Alfreds, Alfred Blue and Alfred Morris.
That's right. Alf. The Alf Squad.
The Alf Squad. All right, well, that'll be it for tonight. Thanks, guys, for listening. For the Hot Pineapples, the Ewok Juggernauts, everybody want to clap.
In case I don't see you. Good afternoon, good evening, good evening. Yeah.
Hey, listen, my love affair for Juju hasn't subsided at all.
Yeah. Why did you sour on him so much? It's like you became cranky about Juju. Poor Juju's like the most likable guy in the NFL.
I'm listening to these podcasts, and throughout the summer, as April, May, June, July, there's nothing going on, right, after the draft. So it's just all speculation radio. And within every passing week and month, he's a wide receiver 1. Well, he's top 8. Well, he's top 5. Well, he's top 3. You know what? He's the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy football. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. To have Juju Smith-Schuster as the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy football, when the only thing he's got going for him that's really sexy is that he's 22 years of age. So you can project out the next 10 to 15 years and, write scenarios of him being a dominant wide receiver. And we haven't seen him play against elite number 1 cornerbacks with an old, aging Ben Roethlisberger, and they have no legitimate help. And
here's my thing. I don't disagree. But when you have a shot to get, or when you do have and are looking to trade away a 22-year-old wide receiver that has done what he has done, you need to expect a haul.
Yes, I agree. But they're talking, some of these podcasts are talking about him being number 1 overall.
Yeah, no, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
You
also can't expect me to, you also can't be like, he's not worth 3 firsts. He's 22-year-old wide receiver that's done. Alex told me he's not worth 3 firsts.
Well, Alex doesn't.
Yeah, and I told Alex, you can kick rocks then. I just laughed, and he said, what's funny? I said, you. And I was like, that's it.
Alex has become the worst negotiator in the NFLMAX league, I think, of all time. And here's why. There's no logic and there's no basis for his arguments. He'll say something like that to you, and he'll have nothing to back it up whatsoever. Meanwhile, I'm throwing trades at him that are based off ADP or even like some trade calculators just to have a good opening statement. And he's so out there.
Yeah.
I can't wait to pick him 101 and give him the fucking rod.
Is that what you're doing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were actually picking me.
No.
Yeah, I was like, man, Russ said he was really picking the worst team. Does he really think I'm the worst team? I was like, I feel like I'm definitely not. But.
No, I think the New York Broncos are the worst team in the NFLMAX.
Yeah.
And it's not even close. Like, I want to pick Brown Eye so bad, but he's such a grumpy old man. I don't want to pick him every week. I got my hot take ready. Get a hot take ready. We'll each do a hot take.
What's your hot take?
Oh, I'm gonna save it for the show. You're not gonna like my hot take.
What if your hot take's the same as my hot take?
Well, then you'll have to come up with a hotter take.
Well, you won't know what my hot take is because you want to not say it until the air. You're not sharing.
You're the hot pineapple man. You have hot takes.
All
right, you want to know my hot take?
Yeah.
Tune in next week.
You're an ass.